Hi everybody, B'sorot Tovot. My name is Elad. I'm here to make this live stream for you. I just wanna say two things before we're gonna start. First, thanks for enjoying. Second, try to think about friends and family that maybe won't join to this live stream, but maybe they don't know that there is live stream, or they don't know that it starts right now. Try to call them, send them a message, let them know it's possible to join us and that they should. Last thing, this is YouTube, not Zoom, so the people here, they can't know that you watch if you don't send them a message. So you can use the live chat to send a message, or you can send them also message in private, in WhatsApp, in message. Let them know that you're here. That's it. If you don't send them any message in the live chat or in private, so they don't go the family and your friends, they don't gonna know that you watch, that you are with them in this moment. You can also find details about the Shiva in the description.
I'm going to start in a few moments.
קודם כל, תודה לך.
Yeah. זה גם בזום?
זה יוטיוב, כן.
זה יוטיוב?
שידור לייב, כן.
אשתי רצה איך להגיע לשם. אשתי רצה
הייתי רוצה להכיר במקום אחר. אני גם חוצה.
ברוך השם.
Hi, group hugs, group hugs.
Right. For Simcha's better.
Yes, totally.
Did your mother leave?
No, my mother's here.
I thought she was leaving Tuesday.
Next.
Oh, the bar mitzvah.
From my side.
You're going.
I'm going to go to the Not for Shabbos.
You go Friday?
I'll go Friday.
I didn't get
To tell them. Thank you. Oh, you also. I like the guy who gives their strong hugs.
No, I know she's leaving Tuesday.
Yeah. I don't think anyone can compare to the losing second. Right? No, but I said like the date was really hot. I said that the answer. How did they know? How did it start? va parler.
Son? Nope. I don't. They don't.
They don't, right?
The general minhag is not
Yeah.
to. Although the Amogen Avraham says there's no real reason for it. Nonetheless, it's a minhag.
She's got no.
נא לכבות טלפונים. התבקשנו גם לשים אותם במצב של טיסה שהרמקול יעבוד.
שהשידור יעבוד.
שהשידור יעבוד. שהרמקול לא עובד. התכנסנו כדי להיפרד מידידנו היקר דוב שבתאי בן ישוע לב ואתל ולגות אותו למנוחתו. אנחנו רואים בתורה שתולדות של אדם הם הצאצאים. במקרה של דוב זה כל כך נכון וברור. ולכן זה מאוד מתאים, וזה גם מתאים לדיני הספדים בחודש ניסן, שנשמע את הסיפור של דוב מהילדים שלו. אני מזמין ראשונה את דייוויד.
As the only son, I was given the task of speaking first and giving a brief history of my father's life. My father, Abba, Saba, Sababa, was a special person who overcame many obstacles in his life. He was born in 1941 in Winnipeg, Canada, the second child to his parents, Canadian-born Ethel Walensky and Louis Greenstone, an immigrant from Lithuania. When he was just 4 years old, his mother died, leaving him and his older sister Miriam to be raised by their father and later by his stepmother Esther and their numerous aunts, uncles, and cousins spread throughout Canada. When he was 13, his Uncle Joe recognized intellectual capabilities and suggested that he go to Chicago Yeshiva, what is now known as Skokie. He continued learning there for about 10 years, with a 1-year break when he attended Lakewood Yeshiva and was chosen to be one of the original Talmidim to go with Rav Shmuel Feivelson to start a yeshiva in St. Louis. He went back to Chicago to fulfill his promise to his Uncle Joe to get a college degree. There he obtained smicha and got a bachelor's in mathematics. Also while in yeshiva, he met my mother, who became his wife after he committed to making Aliyah. With his degree, he began his career in high tech, with a decades-long career at IBM. Abba's career meant regular moves. After his twins were born, he moved to Muncie, New York, where Shane and I were born. While there, my parents also took in 2 foster children for a couple years. Subsequently, they moved to Dayton, Ohio, where he lived for about 10 years, minus the 3 months he spent in Southern California, where Eliza, his 5th and final child, was born. Then he began his move east, when he moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, and then Muncie, New York. Wherever he went, he continued to pursue his Torah learning. He was an active member of the community, serving on school and shul boards, and also acting as a mashgiach kashrut. Abba had many passions and interests, including drama, music, and chazanos. He acted as a chazan for Yom Noraim in various cities in the United States and worked as a rabbi in a nursing home. In 2003, nearly 40 years after his wedding day promise, Abba took my mother to Israel. He enjoyed retirement and spent his days volunteering and learning in a pensioner kollel. Abba had many special qualities, but I would just like to focus on one important aspect of his personality. He was incredible at connecting with people. He felt a need to connect on some level with every single person. When we walked down the street, he'd be sure to say hi to every single person we passed, to the point that it was embarrassing. That was for the people with whom we didn't have time to start a conversation. If the opportunity was there to extend the conversation, like with a cashier or a random person sitting at the gate at an airport, or even the nurse when he's dying of cancer, then he'd ask their name and for a bit more detail about them, like where they're from or what they do. People liked the fact that he gave them attention and rarely cared about their answers. If he could make a connection, though, to where they were from or to their last name, then he'd do that. In his prime, he was as good as anyone at Jewish geography. A lot of people here will remember him more post-retirement, when his memory wasn't quite the same and his ability to sit and listen to the answers wasn't quite what it was. But he would have the conversation and remember many details. When I was a kid, though, he'd remember all the names and put them together and find a connection somewhere. Abba made people feel comfortable, and people would answer his questions and have fun making the connections. Whether he was meeting someone for the first time or catching up with an old friend, he had a way of making people feel valued and appreciated. The more he had to do with you, though, the more he'd connect. I used to bring friends home from YU who loved schmoozing with Abba. Sometimes I was afraid they were only coming to my house to schmooze with him, though my mother's roast certainly didn't hurt, and not to hang out with me. He just made them feel at home. One of Abba's favorite activities was coming to shiur with me on Sunday mornings. He'd often drive me back to yeshiva, both Shari Torah and YU, and sit in shiur. Then he'd schmooze with the Rebbe and find out all about it. In general, he always made special connections with the various Rebbeim and rabbis he had in his life. He was very close with a lot of his Rebbeim from Chicago Yeshiva, including Rav Mendel Kaplan. I remember we once detoured through Philadelphia so he could introduce me to him. He also continued his close relationship with Rav Shraga Feivelson for many years. Somehow, he always became close with the rabbis of our shul and in our neighborhood. Okay, in Dayton, that was no big deal because there were only a handful of frum families, so you almost had to be friends with the rabbis. The fact that he was best friends with Rabbi Pirlis and very close to Rabbi Schnall was totally normal. It continued in Bridgeport, though, where he was very close to Rabbi Mendelsohn, and then when they moved to Muncie, he used to walk home with Rabbi Chapler every week and have long conversations with him. The real connections he made, though, were with family. He was very, very close to his sister Miriam, who just died on Purim, and his many cousins throughout Canada. He adored my mother and would do anything she asked. He loved his children and would sing our praises all the time. As each child and grandchild got married, he became close with our spouses and viewed their entire families as part of the extended mishpacha. He always wanted to be involved in our lives and hear about everything we were doing. We all knew to expect a call from him at any moment, just to hear how things are. He often called at inconvenient times, so I just started calling him every morning to fill him in. Nothing made him happier than hearing stories about and seeing his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He would always ask about them and would be concerned any time something wasn't going well for one of them, to the point that I didn't like telling him about problems because he'd worry too much. He loved seeing them get along and playing together. The doctor asked him just a few days ago what he wanted to do in the last few weeks of his life, and he said just to enjoy visits from his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Abba, Saba, Sababa, you will be missed, but the memories will live in our hearts and your legacy survives forever.
Lisa?
My Auntie Miriam's daughter Lana said some words that I would want to share. Even though Uncle Barry and I never lived in the same city, I was blessed to have developed a strong bond with him over my entire lifetime and during visits in Toronto, Florida, Memphis, Dayton, Muncie, Baltimore, and Israel. Perhaps the most formative experiences for me were those childhood trips to Muncie and Dayton. I would come every summer with my mom. It was clear that Uncle Barry and my mom valued family as a top priority. During those trips, I witnessed how close their relationship was. Throughout their lives, they cared deeply about one another and wanted to do whatever it would take so the other would be happy. They shared each other's joys and were there for each other in sorrow. Whatever happened in my mom's life, she was always anxious to share details with Uncle Barry. I remember so many significant times and events in her life, and one of the first things she would say is, I have to go call Uncle Barry now and tell him. When my dad died, Uncle Barry arrived in Toronto the next day. I will never forget him walking into the house before the funeral and giving me a hug, a much-needed hug at my time of grief. He spoke at the funeral and stayed throughout the Shiva for another week to make sure my mom was okay. He helped entertain the people who came to the Shiva, and we blessed him for that. It was actually quite comical. Most people he didn't know, and yet he talked to everyone and found something to say. I remember two friends of mine at the Shiva who are from Malta. Somehow, he struck up a conversation about Malta. Uncle Barry taught me about finding balance and meaning in life in a way that puts family first. My mom was so proud of Uncle Barry. She often talked about his intelligence and his love for each of his children. I miss Uncle Barry, but will always cherish my memories of him and remember his lessons and take them forward as I lead my life. Thank you, Lana. I am Eliza Pilichowski. My father's father's fifth child. Thank you to everyone for joining us to give kavod to our father. These past 2 weeks have been a mix of emotions. They haven't been easy, but having you all here with us makes them easier to bear. My father was a caring man. He truly cared for each and every one of his children and grandchildren. Every time that my father would talk to me, he would ask me to tell him one thing about each child and then make sure to update me on each of my nieces and nephews. He developed a relationship with each one and enjoyed the time he spent with them. Each of his 5 children, 26 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren are different and unique, and he loved that uniqueness. He always encouraged each one to pursue their dream and passions and enjoyed hearing about them. My father wasn't a man of vices. He didn't run after the pleasures of the world. His tastes were simple. His enjoyment came from the meaningful parts of life. He loved chasing and building a relationship with Torah scholars. Talking to Talmidei Chachamim gave him such joy. Often if he saw a Talmid Chacham, whether he knew them or not, he would run over to them, stay after davening to spend time with them. He loved talking and was close to Rabbi Feivelson, Rabbi Kaplan, Rabbi Schnall, Rabbi Mendelson, Rabbi Chapler, Rabbi Lau, and Rabbi Chait, along with all of his children and grandchildren's Rabbanim. When he had time with the Talmid Chacham, he'd ask them a shaila if they knew someone in common or their opinion on something happening at the time. Torah study was always a priority for my father. Whether he was studying Torah, laning, or singing at the Shabbat table, Torah was his North Pole. Torah guided and inspired him. My father was a musmach of the Skokie Yeshiva and spoke fondly of his time and privilege learning Torah there. Abba was always grateful to his Uncle Joe for sending him to yeshiva. He didn't retire and play golf. He came to Yerushalayim and joined the Pensionnaires Kollel. He was so proud of each of his children's and grandchildren's Torah study and enjoyed talking to them about their Torah learning. Mommy, I want to thank you. During Abba's final days, you were always by Abba's side and showed us how to care for a spouse. Abba always called out for you and wanted you near him. You didn't just handle his needs, but you provided care and comfort with your presence next to him, just as you do for all of us. We will always be here for you, and we love you. My father was an inspiration to me, my husband Uri, my children Abigail, Tamima, Yoshua, Gila, Naomi, Tova, and Moshe. I'm grateful he was able to attend Tamima and Yoshua's wedding. We'll never forget his bracha achritza. Like that last bracha said with such strength and passion under the chuppah, the lessons he taught us will remain with us forever.
Tina?
I'm Shana Summer, Abba's third daughter and a favorite child. Parenthetically, it's very interesting that every one of Abba's children thinks that they are his favorite. Abba was a beloved father, husband, grandfather, great-grandfather, and friend, a man who left an indelible mark on the lives of all who knew him. My father was a pillar of the Jewish Orthodox community, a man of great faith and love who dedicated his life to his family and his community. Abba was a man of Torah. I have vivid memories of him learning with Chavrutot consistently throughout my childhood. Up until even a month before Abba's passing, he still learned consistently with the Chavruta. One of Abba's greatest joys in life was singing, and it was a gift he passed on to his children. I fondly remember sitting on his lap as a little girl singing Shabbos songs with him. His love of music brought joy to those around him, and he will always be remembered for his beautiful voice and the way he brought people together through song. A quote from one of Abba's favorite songs, A Bluebird of Happiness by Jan Pierce. It's a life of smiles and a life of tears. It's a life of hopes and a life of fears. Abba knew this all too well, and he lived his life with a deep appreciation for both the highs and lows that make up the human experience. He was silly with his children, bringing laughter and light into our lives, and he was a devoted husband who cherished Mommy and built a life of love and partnership with her. He was incredibly proud of and received much nachat from all his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Abba, I will miss you terribly. The world, and especially our family, will not be the same without you.
שמי אימי פרד, הבת השנייה, אבי ואימי. בחרתי לדבר בעברית, כי אבא חינך אותנו לאהבת הארץ, אהבת שפתה ואהבת דובריה. העברית שימשה כפס כל חיי בחיינו. כמה סמלי שאנחנו נקום מהשבעה ביום העצמאות. My father's father wrote letters to him in Hebrew, and my father sang to his beloved sister Miriam in Hebrew as she lay on her sickbed. Their love for each other was a model of brotherly love, which served as a model for us. It's telling that he died so soon after her 30. אצלנו במשפחה היינו תמיד שואלים את ההורים, צחוק, את מי הם הכי אוהבים? אבא אהב את כולם באופן שווה, וכיוון שכך, הרעיפו עליו אהבה. עדות לכך הייתה הנהירה של הילדים והנכדים לבית החולים ולביתו. הוא לא היה לבד דקה מהרגע שנודע שהוא חולה. הוא אהב כאשר כולנו היינו ביחד, אבל הספיק לו זמן קצר כדי למצות את החוויה. אולי בגלל זה הנכדים אהבו להתקשר לסבא שלהם. השיחות איתו היו קצרות וענייניות, ואף פעם לא ארכו יותר מ5 דקות. וכך גם היום התבקשנו לכבד את זכרו בכך שהספדים יהיו קצרים, עד 5 דקות. כדרכו ממצים את הרגע, מתמצתים את החוויה וחווים אותה במלואה. גם המחלה שלו הייתה כך. לא ידענו שהוא היה חולה עד לפני 2.5 שבועות. מצד אחד היה לנו נצח להקל, ומצד שני זה היה מהר מאוד. חסד גדול עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא איתנו ואיתו במשך זמן המחלה ובעיתוי המחלה. אבא זכה להשתלב בחתונה של תמימה ויהושע, לחגוג את ליל הסדר עם חלק מהילדים בשבת חול המועד בחיק המשפחה. השיא היה כאשר זכינו, אחיי ואני, לחגוג ביחד, רק אנחנו איתו ועם אמא שלנו. בזכות המשפחות שלנו. היו לנו הרבה רגעי ביחד. במועד הראשון שהיינו רק אנחנו, שבטנו, בפעם הראשונה ב40 שנה. בשבת אחרי זה היינו אריק, אני, הילדים והנכדים, איתם בשבת מיוחדת בביתו. התפללנו יחד קבלת שבת, קידשנו, הבדלנו. אבא ואמא היו מחלקים את החגים בין הילדים, וכך זכינו, אני ומשפחתי, לארח אותם בביתנו בנוף איילון בימים הנוראים בכל שנה. אבא היה חזן, וכבעל תפילה היה מאוד מחובר לנוסח האשכנז, למילים ולמנגינות, ורצה להצטרף למניין האשכנזי בנוף איילון. הוא ראה שהדבר מקשה על המשפחה, כיוון שזמני התפילות לא תאמו את הזמנים של בית הכנסת הגדול במזרח, ולכן אבא ואמא ויתרו והצטרפו לתפילה בבית הכנסת עדות המזרח על המנגינות והנוסחים השונים. מעשה אצילי וצנוע. אבא אוהב אנשים באופן כללי והתחבר מאוד לקהילה שלנו ואף יצר קשרים חברתיים עם אנשים כאן. אבל הדבר הכי חשוב שלמדתי מאבא זה מהי מחילה אמיתית. אבא היה דוגמה מהלכת שנוח לרצות. גם כאשר הכריזו אותו וגם מאחר היה שם, הוא היה דואג לרצות אותו. הרבה אנחנו מדברים על תשובה, איך חוזרים בתשובה, אבל קשה יותר לחקות את מידת הקדוש ברוך הוא של מחילה ומורה. אבל הוא היה נח לרגע עד שהוא פייס את האחר, ואז הוא שכח מהעוול שנעשה לו, מהעלבון שספג, או מכאב שנגרם לו. הוא לא רק מחל, הוא באמת מחק את הדבר כלא היה. מי ייתן ונדע כולנו צאצאיו ואוהביו, לאהוב אחד את השני, לדעת למחול, לדעת להכיל, לדעת לקבל.
נסיים עם דינה.
Good thing there are only 5 of us. I'm Adina, also known as Ethel, and I'm Abba's oldest child. Abba had a superpower. He knew people so deeply and so completely that he often knew truths about them that sometimes even they didn't know about themselves. He could divine facts as if they hadn't been, even if they hadn't been revealed previously. For example, he once asked a young woman whose boyfriend was on the verge of proposing, "So when's the wedding?" Another time he asked a guy who was considering accepting a new job offer about stock prices of the new company. A woman who just found out she was pregnant, he asked her what she would call the baby. He just knew. Now all of Abba's children have the cold, analytical blood of our Lithuanian heritage coursing through our veins. So we knew well that this superpower wasn't some sort of divine prophetic ability. Instead, we recognized it for what it was. Abba's deep, deep empathy enabled him to see and listen for what wasn't said. He connected so powerfully with whoever he was talking to. He listened so deeply. He cared so profoundly. And that's how he knew. There was another aspect to this superpower. Abba deeply identified with whoever was with him. That's why you heard some of my siblings talk about his rabbinic connections, his love of Torah, etc. That's how he identified with them. With me, it was cynical banter and a lack of reverence. Similar with me, he presented his liberal ideologies, hinting to me who he really voted for. Abba's connection to people was something that he had with everyone, ba'asher him. That's why all my siblings and I could not leave his bedside during the short time of his illness. And that's why my children and all my nieces and nephews sought to find the time to be with him during those few weeks. They wanted to be with him, to sing a last song with him, to hear one more story, to tell one last joke. So many of my friends commented on his smile that welcomed them so warmly when he saw them. He would look them in their eyes and acknowledge their presence personally with a greeting. He would make them feel important by asking a personal question or recalling a shared memory. They felt a friendship that spanned the generational divide. My cousins and my extended family all talked about his charm, but it went beyond family. His taxi driver teared up when he heard that Abba had passed. His cleaning lady, the man at the makolet, his chavruta, all choked up. Abba connected, but he would quickly get bored. I remember Abba saying, "I wish that random missing grandchild would visit me, but just for 5 minutes, and then they could go back home." And again, I know the real reason why he wanted each grandchild to be brief. It was because he didn't want to sing their praises in their presence. Instead, he would wait for them to go before he'd talk about how remarkable each one was. He so deeply loved his family. On our long rides from Modi'in to Zichron, he would list out each child, and each grandchild, and each great-grandchild, enumerating their great strengths. As my brother David recounted earlier, when he met with the palliative staff, they asked him how he'd want to spend his last days. He answered unequivocally that he wanted to be with my mother, his wife, who he so deeply, deeply loved. And then he added, "I want to be with my children and grandchildren, but not too many of them at the same time." Abba never wanted us to suffer or feel pain. He was diagnosed with advanced late-stage cancer just almost 3 weeks ago. He made it to Tamima and Yoshua's wedding, and despite his weakened state, he belted out the bracha acharita. He was at Seder and remarkably stayed until Shulchan Aruch. He was sure to have last words with every child and grandchild and great-grandchild, and only then did he allow himself to pass. Abba, last night, as you lay peacefully on your bed at home, having been visited that very day by so many of your grandchildren, by your children-in-law, and surrounded by all your children, I whispered to you that you can go now. I told you you've left a legacy, an army of descendants who will carry on as best we can your sense of irony, your devotion to the Jewish way of life, and most especially that uncanny ability to know each and every person deeply and to accept them fully in the moment. I'm the last speaker. And on behalf of my mother and my siblings, I want to thank all the many people who treated my father and by extension all of us, the doctors and nurses at Hadassah Ein Kerem, in the Pnimit, in the oncology ward, and in the palliative care, so gently and graciously shared the news with Abba and took care of him so professionally. I want to thank so many friends and family who showered him and us with love and care. I want to thank you, Mommy, who supported Abba all these years through good times and through harder times. And I want to thank each of my siblings. Each of us brought our own unique powers to this time. It was our collective, together, spearheaded by Amy, who really got us through this period. Thank you also to all my siblings-in-laws and to my husband, who supported us with anything we asked, from traveling to a Seder that doubled in size overnight, to hosting a huge Shabbat Pesach, and so much more. Lastly, thank you to all of you for listening to these long speeches. We all really just wanted to talk about our Abba, for coming from near and far to show last respects to our father. One last thing, our friends and family all know that Abba had a special custom to sing at every bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, wedding, special event. We invite all of his children to come here to sing in his memory, all grandchildren. I want you to sing. The ones who can.
Yerushalayim irfan berachamim tashuv v'tishkon v'tocha kasher divarta v'tishkon v'tocha kasher divarta
נשמתו צרורה בצרור החיים.
אנחנו נפרדים עם דברי משנה, אותיות נשמה שיהיו לעילוי נשמתו של דוב שבתאי בן ישיאלי. עקביה בן מהללאל אומר, הסתכל בשלושה דברים ואין אתה בא לידי עבירה, דע מאין באת ולאן אתה הולך, ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון. מאין באת מטיפס רוחה ולאן אתה הולך, למקום עפר רימה ותולע. ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיבה פה ולא יאיר כל חמתו. קדיש.
Avis Kadash, me Rabbo, B'yomad Yiprach Yerusei, V'mlech Machusei, V'chayechonu, V'yomechonu, V'chayei Dechol Beis Yisrael, V'agala, U'bizman Kari, V'imru, Amen. Me Rabbo, Nevorach, Elon Olei, Olmayo, Yisparach, V'ishtabach, V'ishpar, V'ishmam, V'isnasei, V'ishadar, V'isalev, V'ishalal, Shmei Dekutsha, B'richu, Leila min kol b'chasa v'shirasa, tush b'chasa v'nechamasa, damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim b'leinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru amen.
שישה גברים לנשיאת עמיתה. צדק לפניו יהלך, וישם לדרך פעמיו. בינום אדונו אלוהינו עלינו, מעשה ידינו כוננו עלינו, ומעשה ידינו כוננו. יושב וסתר אל יום אצל שדי יתבונן, ומעל אדונו מעשי ומצודתי, אלוהי הבטחתו. הוא יציל לך חברתו יעשך לך, ותחת כנפיו תצא. פינה תשחרר איתו, לא תיגע מתחת לילה, ותשחרר מדבר באוכל יהלוך, מתייתר ושזוראים. ובוא נתניך אלף, ורבבה מימינך, אליך כפיים יישאוך פן תיגור באבן רגליך, על שחר ופתן תדרוך, תרמוס פיל ותנין, תביך שק וחרתהו, חזקהו פרחה שמים, תקראני דהנהו עם אנוכי בצרה, אכלצהו ואכבדהו, אורך לך לך ותחת כנפיו תצא, תנא בכוחך מתוך, לא תנח תחת לילה ושת יהוד בימה, ואינה ותעלוך, יתד יתד תורה, בוא ותמצא אלך ותבוא מבניך, אליך לא ידעת, ועבנך תמיד בתשומת ותאים שמך, יעתר לבנוי מחשי עליון שם נמונך, לא תעונה אליך רעב, נגע לא יקח לא עליך, כי מלאכיו יפעל פה ולא ישיב. ירבה להשיב פה ולא יאכול חמתו, ירבו כפר עוון ולא ישיב. ירבה להשיב פה ולא יאכול חמתו וכפר אדמתו עמו. זין בתהילים. מכתם לדוד שמרני אל כי חסיתי בך, אמרת לאדוני אדוני אתה טובתי בא עליך. לי קדושים אשר בארץ אימה ואדירי כל חפצי בם, ירבו אשרותם אחרי מהרו בלהסיק נזקיהם מדם, ובלשא את שמותם על שפתי אדוני מנחתי כי בכוסי. אתה תומך טוב עליך, אבל אם נפלו לי בנעימים אף נחלת שופרה עלי, אברך את אדוני אשר יעצני. אף לא תסרוני חיליותי, שיביתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד. כי מימיני בא למות, לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי הבשרי ישכון לבטח. כי לא תעזוב נפשי לי שאול, לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת. תודיעני אור החיים, סוב השמחות את פניך, נעימות בימינך נצח.
Yisgadal v'yiskadash shmei rabba v'yamad yivrach yirtzei v'yamlich machusei v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayed achol beis Yisrael v'akalav v'zman chali v'imru amen Yehei shmei rabba mevorach v'lam amei Omaya yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yispa'ar v'yisramam v'yisnasei v'yisadar v'yisalev v'yishalal shmei dekutra b'richut Le'ela min kol berchasa v'shirasa tush b'chasa v'nechamasa Damiran b'alma v'imru amen Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al Yisrael v'imru amen Oseh shalom v'imru ma v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen
El malei rachamim shoycheim v'amroimim Hamtzei v'nuchoi nuchoina kanfei ashchina B'malos kidashim utarim Kizor rakiyel mazirim Linishmas dov shabtai ben Yoshua leib Shalach le'lamo Avo shebli nedem Mishbachto et tzedaka ba'ad askarat nishmato Lacheim ba'al rachamim Yastireyo b'seita knofav l'olamim Yitzrah, Yitzrah Chayim es nishmato Adonai hu nachlato V'tanuach v'shalom v'mishkamo V'nomar Amen. נסיים בבקשת מחילה המנוח דוב שבתאי בן יהושע לייב בשם רעייתך בנותיך, בנך, נכדיך, יתר בני המשפחה, קרובים, ידידים, מכרים ומוקירים, כל אלו שבאו לחלוק לך כבוד אחרון, ובשם החברה קדישא שהתעסקה בקבורתך, ומבקש ממך סליחה ומחילה, אם פגמנו חס ושלום בזה דבר. כל מה שעשינו היה לכבודך, לפי מסורת ישראל, וכמנהג ארצנו הקדושה וכמנהג המקום. כמו כן אנו פותחים אותך להיות חבר בכל חברה או אגודה איזושהי. נוח בשלום המשכבכם. עלינו כנסים מרומים, תמליץ טוב בעד יקיריך, יוצאיך לצאיך, בעד אחינו בני ישראל הנמצאים בכל מקום שהם, בחיים ושלום יהיו לנו, לכל ישראל לעולם. אמן. לך בשלום, תנוח בשלום, תעמוד לגורלך לקץ הימין. מנהג ישראל הניח אבן, או רגב אדמה על הקבר. מתבקש לעמוד בשתי שורות מחוץ לשער, על השירים.
now, thanks so much for the people who was with us in this moment. I'm gonna say it again. If you don't send a message to the family members, so they don't gonna know that you was with them. So I ask you to send them a message, maybe call them later, let them know that you was with them in this day. Sorry about that.